Not very impressed at all by the looks of things. The main question for the field as we go green at the end of the pit lane is, can anyone stop this man? And has he stalled it in the fast lane there? I think he might have done. And of course, with the threat of rain, could this be the thing that knocks him off? His incredible run of 4 consecutive pole positions. The other 19 drivers in the field surely need to get on top of his incredible run because there's so much momentum being built up. So it's qualifying under strange circumstances, testing circumstances for the drivers. It's round 5 of the 2017 FIA Formula 2 Championship. I'm your commentator, Alex Jakes, and that is the magnificent view at the newly renamed Turn 3 as you look back down the hill. This, the highest point on the racetrack as they climb from, you can see the pit grandstand just next to the graphic there. That's the lowest part, 60 meters, climbing all the way. And this is quite an interesting racetrack because we just see Leclerc, he's in neutral, and surely now, there's the thumbs up, he will be able to rejoin. But we have traditionally seen drivers struggling to get away can suffer with that for a weekend. Here comes our championship leader, 42 points to the good. He will be hoping to extend that 4 points even further. A reminder that in Formula 2, the pole sitter takes 4 points. So we've seen issues getting off the line for De Vries earlier in the year in Bahrain. Also in Baku, he had the same issue. And so this will be a fine balance now between getting round as fast as possible with the imminent threat of rain. The wind direction is changing here all of the time. And they've got to find themselves a gap. It's only a 2.6 mile circuit. We will today see the fastest lap time of the season for a qualifying run. Not that many corners around here. Officially, there are 10, but there are only three really substantial braking points around this circuit. We've gone through turn number 3, heading down to turn number 4, and multiple drivers, if you weren't with us this morning, were really struggling to get it slowed down into this part of the racetrack. And it's a issue, of course, because there is not tarmac around the outside. As you can see, this part of the circuit, this crucial part of the circuit, punishes any mistake you may make. So it's a weird paradox between the fact that there aren't that many corners, so you've got to get everything exactly right. A lockup can be the difference of a couple of rows around here, but then you've got the opportunity on the super soft tyres, because tyre degradation isn't that intense around here. If you do make a mistake, you can go again, providing you haven't flat spotted that tyre. So with DRS open, we see Nick De Vries heading across the line, but they are not yet running representative lap times. Remember, they were in the 1:14s. Pole last year belonging to Sergei Sorokin, who was with us last time out. And he is part of a driver shuffle that I should run you through. We've had Alexander Albon retaking his seat in the ART. So Sorokin returned to his free practice duties for the Renault Formula 1 team. With Rapax, we've seen a change there. Out goes Johnny Cecotto, and this man has a new teammate in Sergio Canamasas, who moves from Trident, and that empty seat has been taken by Raffaele Marcello. Marcello, much like we saw with Sorokin 2 weeks ago, struggling to acclimatise. Initially, we know Marcello has amazing speed. He's a 14-time podium finisher in GP2 in the same machinery today. He makes his Formula 2 debut, and he is a driver who has the 1 GP2 pole. He should have had another one here back in 2014. So De Vries will come round, second warm-up lap complete, and now he heads the train, which is changing all the time there. That's not the lap time you want to look at. Right now, this lap is on maximum attack for the first time on the super soft rubber. De Vries will finally, after those 2 warm-up laps, surely be able to be in a position to attack the racetrack. And you see the time he's immediately gained through the first sector of the lap, 19 seconds. Not a lot to do. earlier on today. We saw Leclerc posting a similar time. Remember, De Vries is expected to be in the battle for pole. It's neat and tidy so far. Remember, the tyres do hang on around here. They get 2 sets of the Redwood super soft tyre. They get 3 sets for the weekend of the softs. Love the drivers just using the extra bit of tarmac in before they turn in there. Fantastic sweeping corners. At turn 7, they're definitely using that extra bit of tarmac. Didn't need that though, did he? Luca Ghiotto on the racing line, warming his tyres and brakes and forcing Nick De Vries to go to the inside. That would have annoyed the Dutchman, the McLaren junior driver, but he's over the line to set the first representative lap time of this session. And Nick De Vries does a 1:15.0 and will go straight again. Here's Nobuharu Matsushita, one of 4 men to be alongside Leclerc on the front row and massively faster at this stage of the session. So they will just get out there and run laps and laps, maybe a little bit more fuel in the car than they would normally want to, in order to try and give themselves the luxury of setting as many laps as possible before the threat of this rain. Camera earlier had a real issue. He was stopped with a mechanical issue, but he's fastest at the moment. Time's absolutely tumbling. It's a very handy lap time. That is faster than we went earlier. Charles Leclerc looking to respond to that, but Camera, after the troubles of practice, immediately back on it. Antonio Fuoco was second in practice, and he's second in qualifying at the moment. And a weekend he really needs a result for. Charles Leclerc, the dominant force in qualifying so far, comes across the line, and he's the first man into the 1:13s. The 1:13.9. Markelov, 9th at the moment, so slightly scruffier lap. So Leclerc from Camera, from Fuoco, and Ollie Rowland has posted it up there in 4th position. Ollie Rowland, who heads the qualifying battle with his teammate 3-1 going into this session. Some interesting battles all the way through the field, not least of which this man, Artem Markelov, and his teammate, Luca Ghiotto. 2 apiece, level coming into this, the 5th qualifying session of the season. Markelov, who did seem to have good pace in Bahrain, but wasn't able to make use of it. And that's a point that his teammate, Luca Ghiotto, has been making as they race through the field there. That was Nato and Leclerc getting close as they went through turn 6. Easy to make a mistake through there. No such problem for Markelov, but he's still missing time. And at the moment, he's not even posting a personal best through the middle sector of the lap. Having to get out of the way for Nato, who doesn't know he's there. And how close was that to contact? Nato at the very last moment finding out, but took avoiding action. Will the stewards have a look at that? Will Markelov be crowing about it on the radio? You can bet he'll be complaining. So they are just running out there really well. There you are, the picture telling the story. Markelov, we don't need to hear what he's saying because we can see he is very, very unimpressed. And this is why. So coming to the Jochen-Rindt curve, Nato had already let Leclerc by on that lap, and that is not a deliberate chop, but an inadvertent one, as Markelov was trying to set a rapid time, and Nato was on a warm-up lap, very close to contact. We saw that in Bahrain, didn't we, between the trident of Nabil Jeffrey. As we go back to another flying lap for Charles Leclerc, Jeffrey and Malia got together and brought out the red flag on that occasion. Could have easily seen the same thing there, but Leclerc just running lap after lap after lap. Totally different format to what we'd normally see. That is because of the threat of rain. If you're just joining us, Leclerc trying to hang on to it. You can see he's wrestling it through those final corners, but it should be an improvement. No, just a little bit too much in terms of the balance getting away from him at the final point. The team principal there, René Rosien, looking on. And is that Nick De Vries recovering to the racetrack? I think it might have been. Let's see where Luca Ghiotto goes. He slots into 9th. So remember, the man who crashed in Baku qualifying and gave himself such a tough weekend trying to get back on there, but only 9th fastest at the moment. Ralph Boschung was a double point scorer in Baku. Started from the reverse grid pole, and he's pushing to the very limit, beyond the limit at turn 4. And that is the issue. Some corners of this racetrack, there's De Vries going off the road. Some corners of the racetrack, like that one, allow you to recover without much drama. But then certainly turns 4, 5, 6 and 7 all have gravel to punish a mistake. So the early runs completed, totally different to the normal flat out and into the pits format that we would normally see in this session. But once again, by only 1/10 of a second to a phenomenal lap for Camara in the MP. Remember, Camara so far this season has a best of 10th place. So that is why there is a slightly surprised tone of Ahara Matsushita in 6th position, always reliable for the top 10. Matsushita, indeed, he has been in the top 10 in all 4 of his qualifying sessions so far. And we know what this man has done in all 4 of his qualifying sessions so far this year. Difficult start to the session when the car cut out. Don't want to say that he stalled it because we don't know that he did. But the car wasn't going and he was pushed from the fast lane back to the slow. Can sometimes be an issue when they revisit cars being moved out of the way, and there is why they ran so many laps at the start of the session. The wind direction is not blowing in from that way. There's been an awful lot of dark clouds for the last few moments of Formula One second practice, but at the moment the order very, very interesting.
Report from the yeah, we saw that. That's been reported, don't worry.
So there is Norman Nato radioing in. No, the complaint against Norman Nato being radioed in by Artem Markelov. And I wonder if his 10th place might be dropped further than that. 3 major braking points on this circuit. You saw a little bit of the carbon fiber coming out there, and the brake discs glowing red into the braking zone of turn number 3. So Markelov's headed out there again, currently in 12th place, and this is not the qualifying session, the Russian time. The team in the lead of the team's championships in Formula 2 would have expected or wanted. They've been used to having at least one car at the front. It's been the bedrock of their impressive season so far, with both drivers looking very capable of mixing it at the front. And indeed, we've seen that, haven't we, during the races. Giotto has been on the podium on 2 occasions, as has Artem Markelov. One of those was as a winner. Giotto, who came so close to pole in Barcelona after running in the gap. And is that the thinking right now around this racetrack? So only the 2 of them out there. Leclerc instead. He's got his drinks bottle, he's got his feedback coming back in his ear via the radio from his team. They will be telling him where he can improve, and this is slightly closer than you would have expected. So made this point earlier in practice. If you weren't with us then, make it again. There is domination in terms of results, but not in terms of the margin. And we saw that fantastic replay going into turn number 3, and the amount of brake dust coming off there at a circuit where you only really heavily apply them on 3 occasions. Here's a man who is really on a crest of a wave, or at least he was. 15th at the moment. Double podium for the first time at this level last time out in Baku. He is 3-1 down, but did out-qualify his teammate in 3rd place to Ollie Rowland's 9th in Baku. And Antonio Fuoco solidly into this weekend. He was 2nd in practice. He finds himself 3rd after the initial runs. He will believe that it is possible to get that first pole at this level, and that would be exactly what his season needed. Sergio Sette Camara really frustrated that he couldn't convert his pace that he thought was there from practice in Baku. He really struggled to, well, it's a crazy session in terms of qualifying with all the yellow flags, with the red flags, and as a result, can he do it today in a well, it's still a very confusing session.
When you know the hairpin, I brake and I steer, and when I go on power, it's like the rear doesn't settle. And it's like, I lose some time there.
Camera is coming very close indeed to rivaling Artem Markelov as the most entertaining on the radio. We're always hearing great stuff from him. Raffaele Marcello, 18th in the order at the moment, 1.2 seconds away. Just a reminder that the top 15 are spread out by 1 second at the moment. So fine margins and huge pressure on the runs to come. Raffaele Marcello is going to give himself an extra margin. Again, though, take you back to Baku and the quote from Sergei Sorokin, we're only human. You know, these guys hugely experienced in the machinery, but it's always being moved forward in terms of what the teams are discovering, always setup changes being made. The tyre compounds are always slightly, might be minor, but always slightly different. And that is what Prema really aced when they came into GP2 last year. Now in Formula 2, his first qualifying session in Formula 2 at a circuit that he was on the podium a year ago. He was on the podium, 3rd position in a truly crazy race. He was catching the Campos pair at the end of that race, but ran out of laps. And now he's running all on his own on the circuit. Everyone else in the pit lane, apart from this man here. And it's great to welcome him back to single-seaters because he's a driver of enormous potential who got caught up perhaps a little bit for a couple of years in the politics rather than the pure racing. He's been racing with a roof over his head so far this season, but it's hard to believe he only won the 1 race. But his consistency throughout last year's championship, truly fantastic to sort of look at and consider, and the ability to take a car that wasn't the fastest, didn't have the quickest package, but to get to the final round in contention for the title really said a lot about the ability of Raffaele Marcello, and it's great to have him back with us this weekend. So Nato will be slightly nervous at the moment, hoping that there's no trip required to the stewards and they just see it for what it is, a early, which is simply a mistake. Gustav Malia has had a few issues with getting in front of drivers or blocking drivers earlier this year. Raffaele Marcello just set a personal best, but it's 0.3 of a second away from the ultimate pace that's been set in the first sector by Charles Leclerc. Let's see if he can make it back in the middle part of the lap. How much of a gamble is he going to take? How much he's going to push? Really, you can see him trying to wring every inch of the racetrack out of the Trident, pushing in those corners, and it's a track that, according to the drivers, really does invite you to take every single inch of the tarmac you can. Settles it down for the final corner. Turn 10 complete. He can see the line. DRS open. There are 2 zones around this racetrack. Raffaele Marcello gets himself up to 12th. So that is a big improvement for him. Personal best sectors in all 3 sectors. That's all you can really ask for, and it shows everyone out there. Remember, he was down in 18th place before. It shows everyone that there is time to be gained. So the threat of rain still persists. It's getting slightly darker out there. I don't know. It's difficult to see the climatic conditions from the view in the commentary box, but there's a man that needs to improve, would want to improve. Difficult qualifying, really put him on the back foot. This is a man that's been saying that he truly believes he can still win the title. He likes all the tracks this month in July, and he went well at them last year. It's the first time when he was running with this team with Trident. It was the first time that he really felt comfortable, and we saw some really storming performances, certainly at Silverstone in the sprint race, where he came charging through and nearly stole the win away from Jordan King. So getting to a stage of the season where the drivers have to deliver, where they need to have got the relationship with the mechanics. If you're racing for a new team like Giotto is, you need to get that sorted by now, because the races in July come thick and fast and are decisive, as Raffaele Marcello heading out onto another attacking lap, but is he going to encounter traffic? He's certainly going to encounter Alexander Albon. Here's Artem Markelov.
Which position is Roland?
He's P5, but don't worry about Roland, okay? Focus on your stuff.
So there we go, seeing himself on the screen, pointing to the Russian flag on his tear-off, and then trying to get into the zone, visualizing what he needs to get himself up from 13th, and needs a little bit in the middle sector, needs a bit really throughout the entire lap. So everyone else waiting in the pit lane for the rain that hasn't come at the moment but could at any moment. The weather really does change. Latifi fires a shot, the man that qualified in 3rd with a big final run ahead of him to get himself up from 16th. He's got a great run going, great amount of momentum, and this sort of result really would hurt him. And in the background there, the man we were looking at a few moments ago, Artem Markelov, finished 4th and 5th to move himself up to 3rd in the Drivers' Championship for Formula 2. Can Fuoco do anything about Leclerc's time? Fuoco, who scored his first GP3 podium around this racetrack, is sort of accomplished around the 2.6 miles, and well, wouldn't that be something? Remember, expect everyone to take a bit of a leap forward. Last year's pole, a 1:13.6, so we know there is more time to come out of this machinery. Remember, the track hugely rubbered in after those 2 Formula 1 free practice sessions and the early practice session for Formula 2. And so Leclerc seems to have got himself a very nice track position there. So we focus on Louis Delatraz, and Delatraz, who has never been in the top 10, will be hoping to change that. He's going to have to find 3/10 on this lap to give himself any opportunity to do so. The Swiss driver on more familiar territory at this moment. As Racing Engineering, all their points so far, all 28 have been scored by Gustav Malja, his Swedish teammate.
Someone let me know if people are going for 2 preps or just 1.
Okay, I think people will go for 2 prep again.
Yeah, because now the brakes are hot, so the tire already has core temperature.
So great to hear the radio camera there, the man that is at the moment going to secure his first front row start in Formula 2. But just talking through the issues of the tyres need 2 preparation laps, but the brakes are ready to go. They're getting too hot, and that can be a major issue, certainly when you consider that at the start of this lap, you know, 2 hot brakes, the brake's not working as you want. It's all stop and start, isn't it? Big stop into turn 1, and an even bigger stop into this corner right here, turn number 3. Once again, Nick de Vries deciding that he's going to be at the head of this queue. Prema very used indeed to taking pole positions. They had a hatful between Gasly and Giovinazzi last year, and they already have 4 in the opening 4 races from Leclerc. But can Fuoco perhaps be the man? And can Alexander Albon, racing, only got the certificate to race on Thursday, got cleared by the doctor, had to do the tests to get in and out of the car. Remember, he fell off his bike and injured his collarbone. That meant he had to miss Baku. He is the only man in the field to score points in 100% of his races so far, but he's only taken part in 6 of them, not the 8 that most others in the field have. Alexander Albon going on the attack, always a great thing to watch this. The Thai driver, really impressive last year, the surprise contender to Charles Leclerc. That earned him a drive still to stay with the ART team, but to move up to Formula 2, and he will be trying to get near that 18.9 fastest sector, just away at the moment. It's a compromise between grip in the middle part of the lap and straight line speed. Fastest man through the speed trap earlier on today was Jordan King, but only just behind Nick de Vries. And de Vries has set the fastest first sector of anyone so far as we get to the crucial part of this qualifying session. If you make a mistake, there should be enough tyre life to go for another lap. but this is the time to deliver. And you can see Albon really pushing it to the very limit, and he's not too far away at all from Charles Leclerc's ultimate time. It's going to have a absolutely mighty final sector. The massive increase at the moment is coming from this man's teammate, but we're into the final corner of the racetrack. So easy to take too much curb, and he very nearly did. DRS open. Where does this put Alexander Albon? Puts him fastest of all by a tenth of a second. Nick de Vries with the immediate response, only third. Lost time in the final sector. Here comes Nobuharu Matsushita. He too has lost time in the final part of the lap, and it's Albon the man to beat at the moment. Here's Camara storming early run to get himself up into second. Can he continue that momentum as he comes over the line? And he's gone up to fifth. That would be a personal best in Formula 2 for him. And Camara now goes fastest. So Camara goes ahead of Alexander Albon with a 1:13.7. Leclerc, though, looks to be going quicker. Really good in the first part of the lap. Personal best in the second part. Here comes Charles Leclerc. How much is he going to take through these curves? This is the final corner immediately, hanging on to it, thrilling to watch. Is it the fastest time? Is it 5 in a row? It is, by 0.3 of a second, with 3 minutes to go. And Leclerc, you could see how animated the car was through the final part of the lap, and that is why all of the hype is being made about this man. Really fine margins between Camara, between Albon, between Matsushita, and then Leclerc comes along and goes 0.3 faster than all of their efforts. But great lap from Camara to get himself up to second. Here comes Gustav Mallier. 2 corners to go. Great to go on board for them. Got a car ahead. That's not going to slow us down, though. Mallier desperately trying to improve from a personal best of 11th. Can he find more time? No, it's 20th position for Gustav Mallier. That is a nightmare for him. So it's all about finding the track pace. Luca Giotto has been on pole here in GP3. It's not been his session so far. 0.3 away, but personal best in the first sector, personal best in the middle part of the lap. And now we wait to see whether Giotto can continue that through the final part, through the Jochenrindt curve, through turn 10. The line is ahead. DRS open. Can Luca Giotto get himself into the top 5? Let's find out. No, it's only 8th. And we've got Camara on track, pushing again. Raffaele Marcello ran in the gap, and at the moment he's dropped down to 16th position. Markelov in terrible trouble in 15th. Here's de Vries trying one more time. So they are going for a second push lap. Lowered a curb on the exit of turn number 10. Can Nick one more time? So they are going for a second push lap. Lowered a curb on the exit of turn number 10. Can Nick de Vries one more time? So they are going for a second push lap. Lowered a curb on the exit of turn number 10. Can Nick de Vries there, looks quick. Can it improve him? Nicholas Latifi over the line, and it's another top 10 placing for him. But Ollie Rowland just a few tenths faster up the road. There's the boss, Bruno Michel, the CEO of Formula 2. But Leclerc seems to have done it once again. This was him on his push lap, on his hot lap, through the final corners, just giving it absolutely everything. We ran on board with him, and great to see that. Are we looking at all 4 wheels off the road, or are we just enjoying a superb effort again? Artem Markelov trying to get himself further up, and he's just posted a personal best as the majority of the field head back to the pit lane. Markelov isn't done, and this could be a real problem for Artem because he's got a slew of slow cars in front.
I think it's my clutch, man. When I go full throttle, it's not going.
Oh, there's a car in the gravel there. And, well, that is going to ruin the lap of Markelov. That is going to leave Artem Markelov way down. And it's camera in the gravel. We heard issues for him earlier on in practice. One of the Porsche drivers in the background checks in with what's going on with the man that has gone off the road with a clutch problem. We heard that, but he's also secured his first ever front row start. So there is the checkered flag. Everyone returning to the pit lane, and that was a spirited effort from Sergio Sette Camara. MP get themselves back on the front row. But it's Charles Leclerc once again who takes pole position, 5 in a row for the Monegasque driver. So total domination and another 4 points to make the gap in the championship 46 points now. Remember, it was only 3 when we left Monaco. But Leclerc just has an ability with this car that no one else can match. And of course, if you can get qualifying sorted, you can just set up your weekend. It means that you can run at the front. It means that you don't damage your tyres, even if you get a bad start. The lowest you're going to fall to is probably 3rd or 4th. But Leclerc, time and again, when the moment requires it, he turns up the wick and delivers. A word as well for his teammate who puts his troubles of the season behind him. Qualifying's not been the issue, but 3rd on the grid gives Antonio Fuoco a terrific opportunity to put right a difficult start to the season. And the drivers, if you're wondering why they're being restarted, they're being sent back to the racetrack. They drive around half the lap, and then they pull in to the Formula 2 paddock. So the rain never came, but a very entertaining qualifying session did. Charles Leclerc makes it 5 in a row, the first time he's ever done that in his career. I don't remember many drivers doing that in any series. A first front row for Sergio Sette Camara and MP Motorsport, 3/10 off the pace. A return to form for Antonio Fuoco at a track that he likes, and what a return to the championship for Alexander Albon, who gets himself on the 2nd row. Ollie Rowland limiting the damage of Leclerc's form by taking 5th, and then it was Matt Schumacher who looked really strong but fell away in the final sector. De Vries was 7th, 8th Luca Giotto, 9th Nicholas Latifi, not quite able to manage his teammate Norman Nato. We haven't seen any messages, but I wonder if he might be in trouble for blocking Markelov. Markelov will certainly be pressing that case. A strong qualifying for Ralph Boschung in 11th, and Louis Delatraz getting himself up to 12th. King was 13th with his teammate on the front row. He'll be disappointed with that. Then came Canamasas, Markelov, Galeo, Raffaele Marcello and his Formula 2 debut. Then Robert Vissoyu, disappointing after getting so close to the top 10 in Baku that he's only 18th. Then Nabil Jeffrey, and 20th and last, a torrid session for Gustav Malya. Well, that is a really fascinating session. Leclerc delivering when he needed to, but the races have been a different story. The start going to be crucial tomorrow. Can't wait for it. Join us 3:30 local time tomorrow when we go racing, when Formula 2 returns.
Enjoy Sky Sports F1 Live on all screens, on the go, and the best bits on demand.